The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber swung open. Admiral Wilson squared his shoulders as he walked in beside Ambassador Gray. The room was designed to make visitors feel small. Its ceiling rose hundreds of feet above them, and the council members sat on raised platforms arranged in a half circle. "Remember, they expect us to be grateful just for being allowed in this room," Gray whispered. Wilson nodded. After 20 years in the Earth Defense Force, he had learned to hide his anger behind a mask of calm. Today would test that skill. The 12 council members looked down at the humans with expressions ranging from boredom to mild disgust. Each alien was different. Some had scales, others had too many eyes, and one seemed to be made of living crystal. But they all shared the same look of superiority. "The representatives from Earth may present their case," announced High Counselor Morix, his blue skin shimmering under the lights. "Though we remind you that your speaking time is limited to 10 minutes, as befits a single-system species." Gray stepped forward, her silver hair contrasting with her dark blue uniform. At 62, she had spent half her life trying to secure humanity's place in the galactic community. "Honorable Council," she began, her voice steady, "we come before you not as supplicants but to address serious violations of the Treaty of Sol, signed 80 years ago when humanity first joined the galactic community." She activated a holographic projector. Images appeared in the air: a destroyed colony ship, burned settlements on Mars's southern hemisphere, and technical schematics with sections highlighted. "In the past 5 years, 17 of our colony ships have been destroyed. The B Council blamed these incidents on equipment failure or space anomalies." Gray swiped to a new image. "This is recovered footage showing ships matching Council member designs attacking our vessels." Murmurs spread through the chamber. A reptilian counselor named Vex leaned forward. "These are serious accusations, Ambassador. Perhaps your primitive sensors misidentified natural phenomena. Or perhaps these are clever fakes." His forked tongue flicked out. After all, humans are known for their creativity. Wilson had heard enough. He stepped forward, breaking protocol. "We also have evidence of Council agents sabotaging our technological development," he said. With a wave of his hand, the hologram changed to show alien figures infiltrating research labs. "Every time we approach a breakthrough in faster-than-light travel or weapons technology, mysterious accidents occur." High Counselor Morix banged his gavel. "Admiral Wilson, you are not recognized to speak. Ambassador Gray, control your military escort." Gray ignored the reprimand. "For 80 years, humanity has tried to be a good galactic citizen. We've traded fairly, shared our unique cultural achievements, and respected Council boundaries. In return, you've treated us like children, dangerous children to be contained." She took a deep breath. "We come today with an ultimatum, not a petition." The chamber went silent. Even the Council guards at the door turned to look. "Earth demands the following. First, acknowledge Council involvement in the attacks on our ships and sabotage of our research. Second, agree to a new treaty recognizing humanity's right to expand to any unclaimed system. Third, end all restrictions on our technological development." A tall, willowy counselor with glowing eyes laughed. "Or what exactly? Your species controls one small planetary system. Your ships can barely reach the nearest stars. What possible leverage could you have?" Admiral Wilson stepped forward again. "War, Counselor Alara. If these terms are not met, within 3 Earth weeks, the United Earth government will consider itself at war with the Galactic Council." The Council chamber erupted in laughter. Several members bent over, their strange alien bodies shaking with amusement. Only Counselor Alara remained composed, her glowing eyes studying the humans carefully. High Counselor Morix wiped a tear-like fluid from his eye. "Admiral, while we appreciate the entertainment, threatening the combined might of 12 spacefaring civilizations with your primitive fleet is like a cave dweller threatening a modern army with a pointed stick." Ambassador Gray remained calm. "We are not bluffing, counselors. Humanity has been preparing for this possibility for decades." "With what?" asked Vex, still chuckling. Your fastest ships would take years to reach even our closest outposts. Wilson smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. There is much about humanity you've chosen not to learn, Counselor. Morix banged his gavel again. Enough of this farce. The Council rejects your so-called evidence and your absurd demands. Earth will remain classified as a Class 3 developing world, with all the restrictions that entails. This meeting is adjourned. As the Council members began to rise, Gray called out, 3 weeks, Counselors. After that, remember that you chose this path. Walking back through the vast hallways of the Council station, Wilson and Gray remained silent until they reached their ship. The small vessel seemed pitiful compared to the massive Council ships docked nearby. Inside the secure briefing room, Gray finally spoke. That went exactly as expected. Wilson nodded. They're so convinced of their superiority they can't imagine us as a threat. He touched a panel on his wrist. A hidden communication system activated, linking them directly to Earth Command 40 light-years away. The connection was instant, proof of at least one technology humans had kept secret. Command, this is Wilson. The Council has rejected our terms, a voice replied immediately. Understood, Admiral. Did they believe our threat? No, sir. They laughed at us. There was a brief pause. Very well. You are authorized to activate the Prometheus Protocol. All fleet commanders have been notified. Good luck and Godspeed. The connection ended. Wilson looked at Gray, his expression grim. It's done. Gray walked to the view screen, looking out at the massive Council station. All those years of being underestimated, treated as inferiors. It ends now. Wilson joined her. Project Spartacus is ready? All ships are in position? Yes. The first strike teams will deploy the moment we're clear of Council space. Gray's voice was quiet. The hidden shipyards in the asteroid belt have completed the final vessels. Earth's colonies on Mars, Europa, and Titan have evacuated all non-essential personnel to the underground shelters. The quantum displacement drives have been installed on all major warships. Wilson nodded. And the Council has no idea that we can appear inside their defense grids without warning. He shook his head. Their arrogance will be their downfall. As their ship undocked, a Council patrol vessel moved alongside, escorting them out as if they were unruly children being shown the door. Gray watched them through the view screen. They still think we're using conventional drives. They'll track us at light speed heading back to Earth, never suspecting we'll drop into quantum space the moment we're out of their sensor range. Wilson's hand hovered over the ship's communication panel. One message to Fleet Command would launch humanity's first strike. Ships hidden throughout human space, more ships than the Council believed humans could possibly possess, waited for his signal. The Council has had 10,000 years to prepare for war, he said quietly. We've had less than a century. But we had something they didn't. Necessity, Gray finished his thought. The mother of invention. Wilson pressed the panel. And in 3 weeks, they'll learn what humans can accomplish when backed into a corner. As their ship accelerated away from the Council station, the escorting patrol vessel peeled away, its crew likely already forgetting the amusing humans who had dared to threaten the mighty Galactic Council. They had no idea what was coming. 3 weeks passed. On the Council homeworld of Talos Prime, Security Director Vorn studied the reports with growing irritation. 4 outposts near human space had gone silent in the past 12 hours. No distress signals, no signs of battle. They simply stopped communicating. Communications failure, suggested his assistant. The humans lack the ability to cross such distances quickly, let alone attack our installations. Vorn wasn't convinced. Send probe ships to each location, double the patrols along the border of human space. Across the room, Counselor Alara watched silently. Unlike the other Council members, she had not laughed at the human threat. In her 900 years, she had learned that desperation could make even primitive species dangerous. You're worried, she said, approaching Vorn. You think they actually attacked us? Impossible, Vorn replied too quickly. But still we should investigate. Captain Reed stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force ship Nightshade. The vessel was small compared to Council warships, but it had something no Council ship possessed: a quantum displacement drive. Status. Report, Reed ordered. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Park, looked up from her console. All 3 outposts neutralized, Captain. No alarms triggered. The Council still doesn't know we were there. Reed nodded, satisfied. Any casualties? None. On our side. We followed orders and evacuated all alien personnel before destroying the facilities. Reed looked at the main screen, which showed the stars around them. Somewhere out there, 5 other human strike teams were hitting similar targets. The first phase of the Prometheus protocol was underway. Set course for the Cygnus Armory, Reed ordered. Prepare displacement in 5 minutes. The Nightshade moved silently through space. To any observers, it would appear to be traveling at conventional speeds. But when it was safely away from any watching eyes, Reed gave the command. Activate quantum displacement. The stars blurred around them. The ship seemed to fold in on itself, disappearing from normal space. When it reappeared an instant later, they were inside the defensive perimeter of the Cygnus Armory, the largest weapons storage facility in this sector of Council space. Alarms immediately sounded on the bridge. They've detected us, Park shouted. Too late, Reed said calmly. Deploy the boarding teams. We have 20 minutes to take what we need and destroy the rest. On Earth's moon, Dr. Mason stood in a vast underground laboratory. Hundreds of scientists and engineers worked around her, all focused on a shimmering dome of energy in the center of the room. General Thompson entered the lab, his face grim. The first strikes are complete, but the Council will respond soon. How close are you to finishing the shield? Mason wiped sweat from her forehead. The prototype works. We can create a shield that will block their energy weapons. But deploying it across all human settlements will take time. How much time? At least 2 weeks for Earth, another month for the colonies. Thompson frowned. We might not have that long. Intelligence suggests the Council is already assembling their fleet. Mason turned to face him. Then we'll have to prioritize. Earth, first, then Mars. The outer colonies will have to rely on their hidden bunkers until we can extend the shield network. Do what you can, Thompson said. I'll make sure you get all the resources you need. As he left, Mason returned to her work. On a screen nearby, she could see Admiral Wilson addressing the United Earth government. The secret war had begun. Now, they had to survive the Council's wrath. On Talus Prime, the Council chamber was in chaos. Reports of attacks flooded in from across Council space. The Cygnus Armory had been breached, its most advanced weapons stolen or destroyed. 3 shipyards had been sabotaged, and somehow the humans had planted explosives on the hulls of 6 dreadnoughts in the main Council fleet. Impossible, shouted High Counselor Morix, his blue skin now pale with shock. How could they strike so far from their world? Our sensors would have detected their ships approaching. Vorn displayed a recording recovered from the Cygnus Armory. It showed a human ship appearing from nowhere, directly inside the defensive perimeter. They have developed some form of teleportation technology, he explained. They can bypass our defenses completely. Why didn't we know about this? Demanded another counselor. Alara stepped forward. Because we underestimated them. We've spent decades preventing them from advancing, never considering they might develop technologies along paths we hadn't explored. Morix slammed his fist on the table. It doesn't matter. They're still just one species with one star system. Gather the combined fleet. We will crush these upstart humans and remind them of their place in the galaxy. Admiral Wilson stood in Earth's orbital command station, watching as reports came in from the strike teams. Captain Reed's mission to the Cygnus Armory had been particularly successful. The team had captured Council weapon designs that would help improve Earth's defenses. Ambassador Gray joined him, looking at the strategic display. Phase 1 is complete. All targets neutralized with minimal casualties on both sides. Wilson nodded. But Phase 2 will be much harder. The Council fleet is gathering. Our intelligence suggests they'll launch a full-scale attack on the solar system within days. Are we ready? As ready as we can be. Wilson pointed to positions in the display. Our fleet is in position. The minefield is deployed between Mars and Jupiter. Dr. Mason's shield prototype is being installed on Earth's defense platforms. Gray looked troubled. The Council has thousands of ships. We have fewer than 300, even counting the ones we've kept hidden. Numbers aren't everything, Wilson reminded her. Our ships can appear and disappear at will, and we have other surprises waiting. A communications officer approached them. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Talos Prime. The Council is demanding our immediate surrender. Wilson laughed. Tell them we'll discuss terms after they acknowledge our original demands. They also sent visual records of their fleet, the officer added. It seems they want to intimidate us. Wilson and Gray looked at the images. Thousands of warships gathered, each one larger and more heavily armed than anything in Earth's arsenal. They still think this is about firepower, Gray said softly. Wilson nodded. That's their mistake. This was never about having bigger ships or more weapons. It's about being underestimated for too long. He turned to the communications officer. Send word to all commands. Operation Trojan Horse begins now. Captain Reed and the crew of the Nightshade watched from hiding as the massive Council fleet moved toward the solar system. Their small ship was stationed near a gas giant in a neighboring system, along with dozens of other EDF vessels. Will it work? Park asked quietly. Reed checked the countdown timer on his display. It has to. Otherwise, humanity doesn't stand a chance. The timer reached 0. Reed opened a channel to all ships in his battle group. All ships, prepare for coordinated jump. Our target is the Council flagship. Remember your training and trust. Your technology. Humanity is counting on us. As the Council fleet approached Earth, believing they faced a simple battle against an outmatched opponent, they had no idea that hundreds of human ships were about to appear in their midst, striking from impossible angles with weapons they had never seen before. The real war was just beginning. Supreme Commander Drav stood on the bridge of the Council's flagship, the Eternal Dominion. The massive ship led a fleet of over 3,000 vessels from all 12 Council species. Drav had commanded many campaigns against rebellious worlds in his 200-year career, but never had he faced such an unusual enemy. We are approaching the outer boundary of the human solar system, Commander, reported his second-in-command. No sign of defensive positions. Drav frowned. The humans had shown surprising capabilities in their first strikes. Where was their defense? Scan for hidden ships or stations, he ordered. They must be planning something. The fleet moved past the gas giant Neptune, then Uranus. Still nothing. When they reached Saturn, they found abandoned mining stations and empty habitats. It appears they've retreated to their homeworld, said an officer. Perhaps they realized the futility of resistance. Drav wasn't convinced. Maintain battle readiness. Deploy scout ships ahead of the main fleet. As they approached the orbit of Mars, the scouts reported the same thing: abandoned outposts and silent defense platforms. This makes no sense, Drav muttered. They start a war and then hide? The fleet moved forward cautiously. When they reached Mars orbit, Drav gave the order to prepare for the final approach to Earth. At that moment, everything changed. Explosions rippled through the middle of the Council formation. Dozens of ships erupted in flames as hidden antimatter mines detonated among them. Ambush! Drav shouted. Battle stations! Before the Council ships could reorganize, human vessels appeared from nowhere directly among them. Unlike the small strike ships used in the first attacks, these were full-sized warships, their hulls gleaming with strange technology. How did they get past our sensors? Demanded Drav. A tactical officer looked up from his station, his face showing confusion. Sir, they were here all along, somehow hidden in plain sight. Captain Reed watched from the bridge of the Nightshade as the battle unfolded. The Council fleet dwarfed the human forces, but surprise had given them the initial advantage. Dimensional, pocket disruptors working perfectly, reported Lieutenant Park. Their ships can't tell which direction our attacks are coming from. Reed nodded. The technology allowed human ships to partially exist in multiple dimensions, making them nearly impossible to target accurately. Deploy the wormhole weapons, he ordered. Throughout the battle, small devices activated, creating miniature wormholes that redirected the Council's energy weapons back at their own ships. Several large Council vessels destroyed themselves. There, powerful beams reflected to hit their own hulls. Reed's console beeped with an incoming message from Admiral Wilson. Phase 1 of the battle is complete, Wilson said. Commence Phase 2. Good hunting, Captain. Reed turned to his crew. You heard the Admiral. Prepare for dimensional jump. Target the Council flagship. On Earth, deep below the surface in a reinforced bunker, President Allen addressed the billions of people watching on screens across the planet and colonies. Citizens of Earth and her colonies, by now you've seen the Council fleet in our skies. You know we are at war. She paused, her expression solemn. This is not a war we wanted. We asked for equality. We asked for respect. The Council responded with contempt. Images from the battle appeared beside her, showing human ships dancing between dimensions while Council vessels struggled to respond. For decades, we've developed technologies in secret. Today, those technologies are our shield and our sword. But make no mistake, this is not a war of conquest. We fight for our right to determine our own future among the stars. In lunar orbit, Dr. Mason watched as the shield generators powered up over major Earth cities. The shimmering domes would protect against the Council's energy weapons, but not against physical projectiles. And they wouldn't help the smaller settlements that hadn't received generators yet. Power at 80%, reported her assistant. We're deploying faster than expected. Mason nodded, but her mind was elsewhere. On a monitor, she watched Council ships breaking through the human lines. Despite all their technological advantages, humans were still outnumbered 10-1. How long can our fleet hold them off? She asked a nearby military officer. Not long enough, he admitted. We need something more. Mason looked at a secure terminal showing a project even more classified than the shields. Tell Admiral Wilson that Project Looking Glass is ready. It's time to use our final surprise. Commander Jackson led a small team through the darkened corridors of the Eternal Dominion. While the battle raged outside, they had a different mission: infiltrate the Council flagship and access their secure database. Security patrol ahead, whispered Miller, checking a scanner. 3 guards. Jackson signaled his team to wait. They wore specialized suits that bent light around them, making them nearly invisible. The patrol passed without noticing them. Jackson led the team forward again, using a stolen access code to enter a restricted area. There it is, he said, pointing to a terminal. The main database node. Miller attached a device to the terminal while the rest of the team kept watch. Downloading now. This will give us everything: Council battle plans, defense codes, and intelligence on all their worlds. Jackson nodded. But we're looking for something specific. Find anything about Operation Seedbed or the Architect program. As Miller worked, the ship shuddered around them. The battle outside was intensifying. We need to hurry, Jackson urged. I found something, Miller said suddenly. I don't believe this. Jackson looked at the screen and his eyes widened. Download everything. Admiral Wilson needs to see this right away. Back on the Nightshade, Captain Reed was fighting the battle of his life. The Council had adapted more quickly than expected, developing countermeasures against the dimensional pocket technology. 2 more of our ships lost, reported Park, her voice tight. The Council fleet is regrouping. Reed studied the tactical display. The initial surprise had allowed them to destroy nearly a fifth of the Council fleet, but the remaining ships still vastly outnumbered the humans. Where is that reinforcement from Lunar Command? He demanded. As if in answer, a massive energy surge appeared on his sensors. Near Earth's moon, a structure that had been disguised as a mining facility was transforming, revealing its true purpose. What is that? Asked Park. Reed smiled. That, Lieutenant, is Project Looking Glass, our last and greatest secret. The structure finished its transformation, revealing an enormous ring-shaped device. Energy crackled around it as it activated, creating what looked like a rippling mirror in space. Reed opened a channel to all human ships. All vessels, execute withdrawal pattern Omega. I repeat, withdrawal pattern Omega. Human ships began to break away from the battle, using their quantum displacement drives to vanish and reappear near the moon. The Council fleet, seeing what appeared to be a retreat, pushed forward toward Earth. "They think we're running," Park observed. Reed shook his head. "They're about to learn another lesson about humanity. We don't just develop new weapons, we change the rules of the game entirely." As the last human ships reached safety, Dr. Mason activated Project Looking Glass. The giant ring device fired a beam of energy unlike anything seen before. Where it struck, space itself seemed to fold and twist. Suddenly, hundreds of Council ships found themselves facing each other instead of Earth. Their weapons, already firing, struck their own allies. At the same time, the space around them became littered with thousands of small wormholes, pulling their ships in different directions. "Battlefield reconfiguration successful," announced Mason over the fleet channel. "Phase 3 can now begin." On the Nightshade, Reed watched as the Council fleet fell into disarray. "It won't hold them forever," he told his crew. "But it doesn't need to. We just needed time for Commander Jackson to complete his mission." As if on cue, a small stealth ship appeared near the Nightshade, transmitting a single code. "Prometheus. Complete." Reed nodded in satisfaction. "The real war is about to begin, and it's not the one the Council was expecting." Admiral Wilson studied the files that Commander Jackson's team had stolen from the Council flagship. The more he read, the more his hands shook with anger and disbelief. "Is this verified?" he asked the intelligence officer beside him. "Yes, sir. We've confirmed it from multiple sources in their database. It's all true." Ambassador Gray entered the command center, her face showing the strain of the past days. The battle in space had reached a stalemate. Earth's revolutionary technologies had prevented a quick Council victory, but the sheer number of enemy ships made total victory impossible for humanity as well. "What did they find?" she asked, noticing Wilson's expression. He gestured to the screen. "Everything. More than we ever suspected. The Council has been manipulating developing species for thousands of years." Gray sat down heavily. "Show me." Wilson brought up a series of files. According to their own records, at least 47 species have been subjected to the same treatment as humans. When they reach a certain level of development, the Council deliberately sabotages their progress. "But why?" asked Gray. "What do they gain?" "Power. Control." Wilson brought up another file. "But that's not even the most shocking part. The Council, species themselves, they weren't natural evolutions." The screen showed ancient diagrams of genetic modification and planetary engineering. They were created by another species, an ancient race called the Architects. The Architects designed the Council species to be caretakers, to nurture new intelligent life throughout the galaxy. Gray's eyes widened. Instead, they've been doing the opposite. They've been suppressing new civilizations to maintain their dominance. Exactly. They betrayed their purpose. Wilson clenched his fist. And they've been doing it for over 10,000 years. In space, the battle continued. Captain Reed and the Nightshade had suffered heavy damage but remained operational. Nearly a third of Earth's fleet had been destroyed, but they had taken down an equal number of Council ships. "New orders from command," Lieutenant Park announced. "We're to disengage and regroup at Europa." Reed frowned. "Disengage? In the middle of the battle?" "Admiral Wilson has authorized a new strategy," Park explained. "Something called Operation Truth Bomb." As Reed gave the orders to withdraw, he noticed other human ships doing the same, using their quantum displacement drives to vanish from the battlefield. The Council fleet, now more cautious after facing humanity's strange technologies, did not immediately pursue. On the Council homeworld of Talus Prime, Security Director Vorn received alarming reports. "Human ships have been detected in orbit around 5 Council member worlds," his assistant reported, "but they're not attacking military targets." "Then what are they doing?" Vorn demanded. "They're broadcasting, sending signals to every communication device on the planets." Before Vorn could respond, the large screen in his office activated by itself. The face of Admiral Wilson appeared. "People of the Galactic Council," Wilson began. "I am Admiral Wilson of Earth. Your leaders have told you that humans are dangerous, primitives who need to be controlled. Today I will show you the truth." The broadcast continued, showing the stolen council files, proof of their deliberate suppression of developing species, their sabotage of human colonies, and most damning of all, the truth about their own origins as created species meant to nurture, not control. "End this transmission," Vorn shouted. "We can't," his assistant replied. "They've taken control of our communication network." Across 5 major council worlds, billions of alien citizens watched as their leaders' secrets were exposed. On Earth, President Allen met with her military and diplomatic advisors. The news from the battlefield was mixed. Project Looking Glass had successfully disrupted the Council fleet, but Earth's lunar colonies had suffered heavy bombardment in retaliation. "Casualties?" she asked grimly. 8,000 in the lunar cities, reported the defense minister. The shield technology saved the main habitats, but the outlying areas were hit hard. Allen closed her eyes briefly. "And the Mars settlements?" "Better news there. They activated their underground bunkers in time. Minimal casualties, though the surface structures are destroyed." Dr. Mason entered the room, looking exhausted but determined. "Madam President, we've managed to extend the shield network to cover 60% of Earth's major population centers. But I must report that 3 council ships broke through our defenses and attacked unshielded areas in South America and Africa." Allen's face hardened. "Civilian targets?" "Yes. They seem to be changing their strategy, trying to force our surrender by threatening our people directly." Admiral Wilson joined the meeting via secure channel from his command ship. "Madam President, Operation Truth Bomb is underway. We're broadcasting the Council's secrets to their own worlds." "Will it make a difference?" Allen asked. "It already is. We're monitoring communications from Council worlds. There are protests erupting on at least 3 planets. Their citizens are demanding answers." Ambassador Gray, who had been quiet, finally spoke. "This is what we needed. The Council's power doesn't just come from their technology or ships. It comes from the trust of their people. Now that trust is broken." Commander Jackson led his team through the corridors of a Council research facility on a small moon orbiting one of their core worlds. Unlike their mission to the flagship, this wasn't about stealing information. It was about finding something specific. "The vault should be just ahead," whispered Miller, checking the stolen facility maps. They reached a massive door with alien symbols carved into its surface. Jackson placed a device against the control panel, and after a few tense moments, the door slid open. Inside was a vast chamber filled with thousands of stasis pods, each containing what appeared to be a sleeping alien. "My God," breathed Jackson. The database was right. Miller scanned the nearest pod. They're other species that aren't part of the Council." Jackson moved to a central console. "According to what we found, these are representatives of civilizations the Council deemed too aggressive or too innovative. Instead of just suppressing their technology, they took samples and put their worlds under quarantine. Some of these pods are thousands of years old," Miller said, reading the data. Jackson activated his communicator. "Admiral Wilson, this is Jackson. We've confirmed Site Alpha. There are approximately 5,000 individuals here from at least 30 different species. Some may still be viable." Wilson's voice came through clearly. "Understood. Secure the facility. We've found similar sites at 2 other locations. This changes everything, Commander." Back in space, the main battle had paused as both sides regrouped. Captain Reed used the opportunity to repair what systems they could on the Nightshade. "How bad is it?" he asked the chief engineer. "We can fight, but the displacement drive is operating at 70% efficiency. Another jump might damage it permanently." Reed nodded. "Do what you can. I suspect we'll need to make at least 1 more jump before this is over." New orders appeared on his command console. Reed read them twice to be sure he understood. "Lieutenant Park, prepare the crew. We're not returning to the main battle." "Sir?" Park looked confused. "We've been reassigned. Admiral Wilson wants us to take the Nightshade directly to Talus Prime, to the Council chamber itself." Park's eyes widened. "An assassination mission?" "No," Reed said firmly. "Something much more important. We're going to deliver an invitation." His console beeped with an incoming transmission from Lunar Command. Dr. Mason's face appeared on the screen. Captain Reed, I'm sending you specifications for a device we've developed based on the architect technology we found in the Council database. Your mission is to place this device in the Council chamber. It will create a direct communication link that can't be blocked or censored. What's the message? Reed asked. Mason's expression was serious. The truth. All of it. And an offer that might end this war before we destroy each other completely. Captain Reed stood in the shadows of the Grand Council chamber on Talus Prime. His team had used the Nightshade's quantum displacement drive to bypass all the planet's defenses, appearing directly inside the most secure building in Council space. Device is ready, whispered Lieutenant Park, placing the small silver object beneath the central table where the Council members sat. How long until it activates? Reed asked. 5 minutes after we leave. Plenty of time for us to get clear. Reed nodded. Let's go. Our part is done. The rest is up to the diplomats. They slipped away just as guards entered the chamber, preparing it for an emergency council meeting. The council members had no idea what was about to happen in their sacred hall. On Earth, Admiral Wilson and Ambassador Gray prepared for the most important broadcast in human history. President Allen stood with them in the secure command center. Are you sure this will work? Allen asked. They could just destroy the device. They won't have time, Wilson explained. Once activated, it creates a quantum-linked communication channel that can't be interrupted, and it will broadcast to every council world simultaneously. Gray adjusted her formal uniform. This is our best chance to end the war without more bloodshed. The council's own people are already questioning their leaders. Now we offer an alternative. The technician at the communications station raised his hand. Connection established. You're live in 30 seconds. Wilson straightened his back. Remember, we're not just speaking to the council now. We're speaking to trillions of beings across the galaxy. In the council chamber, the 12 members argued furiously. Their unified front had cracked under pressure from both the human attacks and their own citizens' protests. We should have crushed them immediately, shouted Vorn, his scales flaring with anger. Now look what they've done. Turned our own people against us. Perhaps, suggested Counselor Alara, we should consider that our approach was wrong from the beginning. If we had treated humans as equals. Equals? Interrupted High Counselor Morix. They are barely space-capable. They have existed for a fraction of our lifespans. Before anyone could respond, the silver device beneath their table activated. A beam of light shot upward, forming into a three-dimensional image of Admiral Wilson, Ambassador Gray, and President Allen. Greetings, council members, began Allen. Her voice was calm but firm, and greetings to all citizens of council worlds who are watching this broadcast. What is this? Demanded Morix. Guards, remove this device. Guards rushed forward, but their hands passed through the device as if it weren't there. It exists, partially in another dimension, explained Wilson. A technology we developed while you were busy trying to prevent us from advancing. Gray stepped forward. We come with an offer of peace, but not a surrender. The war between us has cost thousands of lives on both sides. It need not continue. You invaded our territory, shouted Vorn. You attacked our installations. After decades of your sabotage and attacks on our ships, countered Wilson. But we're not here to argue about who started this conflict. We're here to end it. President Allen held up a data tablet. We call it the Terra Accords, a new treaty that will replace the Council with a more representative galactic assembly where all spacefaring species have equal voice. Throughout Council space, trillions of beings watched the broadcast. On 5 major worlds, massive protests had erupted when the truth about the Council's manipulation was revealed. Now they listened as humans. The primitives they had been taught to fear offered a different vision of galactic society. This is absurd, Morix said dismissively. The Council has maintained peace for 10,000 years by suppressing any species that might challenge your power, Gray responded. We've found your stasis vaults. We know what you did to those other civilizations. Murmurs spread through the chamber as junior council members and staff reacted to this news. Many had not known about the vaults. More importantly, Wilson added, we know what you were meant to be. The architects created you to nurture new life in the galaxy, not control it. You betrayed your purpose. Elara stood suddenly. He speaks the truth, she announced to the shocked chamber. I have studied the ancient archives. Our ancestors were designed as caretakers, not rulers. Forn snarled and drew a weapon, pointing it at Elara. Traitor! You would side with these primitives? Before he could fire, his own guards seized him. The broadcast had affected them too. The choice is yours, President Allen said. Join us in creating something better, or face your own people's judgment. The truth cannot be hidden any longer. 5 years later, Admiral Wilson stood on his porch overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Now retired, he had traded his uniform for comfortable civilian clothes. In the sky above, ships from dozens of species moved in orderly patterns, arriving for the inaugural session of the Galactic Assembly. Ambassador Gray, now Secretary General Gray, pulled up in a government vehicle. She looked more formal than ever in her assembly uniform, but her smile was warm as she approached her old friend. Enjoying retirement? She asked. Wilson laughed. Most days. It's strange not having a war to fight or a crisis to manage. Today is historic, Gray said, looking up at the ships. Representatives from 57 species, including all former council members, even the beings we freed from the stasis vaults, have sent delegates. And the architects? Any sign of them? Gray shook her head. Not yet. Dr. Mason's expedition is following leads from the old council archives. She believes they might have left the galaxy entirely, moving on to seed life elsewhere. Wilson nodded thoughtfully. Perhaps someday we'll find them, or perhaps we've already become what they intended, caretakers rather than conquerors. A small craft landed nearby. Captain Reed, now Admiral Reed, stepped out with Lieutenant Park, who commanded her own ship now. We couldn't miss this, Reed said, shaking Wilson's hand. The first official meeting of the Assembly. 5 years ago, who would have believed it possible? Not the Council, that's for sure, Wilson replied with a smile. They watched as more ships descended toward the massive assembly building that had been constructed near the old United Nations headquarters in New York. Ships of every size and design, carrying beings that only years ago might have been enemies. Was it worth it? Park asked quietly. The war, the sacrifices? Wilson thought of the memorial he had visited just yesterday, names of those lost in the lunar bombardments and the space battles. Too many names. War is never worth it, he said finally. But what came after? A galaxy where species are judged by their actions, not their age or technology. That was worth fighting for. Gray's communicator beeped. They're ready for the opening ceremony. We should go. As they boarded Gray's vehicle, Wilson took one last look at the sky filled with alien ships. He remembered standing in the council chamber, being laughed at for suggesting humans could challenge the mighty Galactic Council. No one was laughing now. Humanity had proven itself not just through strength of arms, but through strength of vision. They hadn't just won a war, they had changed the galaxy. As the craft lifted off toward New York, Wilson smiled to himself. The Council had thought humans were bluffing when they threatened war. But humanity's greatest strength had never been their weapons or technology. It had been their ability to imagine a better future, and their determination to make it real. The new Galactic Assembly wasn't perfect. There would be conflicts and disagreements in the years to come. But for the first time in 10,000 years, the galaxy's future would be decided by all its peoples together, not by 12 self-appointed rulers. And that, Wilson thought, was a victory worth far more than any battle won in space.